Welcome to our Learning Lab here at Restoration Church Care and Recovery Center, which is where all of our volunteers receive their training. And it's also where just this past Monday night, 10 new grievers came and gathered together to receive support, to receive comfort, to receive tools for this journey that they didn't choose, but need to express their feelings and express their love and journey through. I'm Leah Raid, and I pastor Restoration Church. And I had a very difficult beginning to my understanding of death and dying. I received some really hurtful information upon coming home from school when I was 6 years old to find that my brand new little puppy had died. And upon my crying, my dad told me very sternly, "Stop crying. We'll get you a new dog on Saturday." And that message to me was, even life is replaceable. Fast forward to 17, when I was 17, my best friend, we had been best friends for 11 years, he drowned. And another bad information came to me when I was crying about his death. And my mother said, "Don't cry. We need to be strong for his parents." Sending me the message that crying doesn't help, and we just need to stuff this and not feel feelings, that feelings were not good. That was wrong information. While I didn't understand what the right information was, I began a journey to kind of figure that out. And it was spurred on in 1995 when my father-in-law had freshly retired, and he found out that he had terminal cancer. And it was so advanced that he likely was going to live for a very short time. He was the only grandparent very active in our children's lives, and our kids loved him dearly. They were 10 and 7 years old. And I didn't know what the right information was, but I just knew that they were not going to suffer the way that I did. So I was on a real journey to discover the right information. Hospice was invaluable, and I connected with the hospice chaplain, the hospice volunteers, the hospice nurses in a quest to learn as much as I could to be able to help not only my children, but my husband and my father-in-law as well in this new journey that, again, we did not choose, but it chose us. After helping my father-in-law transition to heaven, and it was not a scary thing for my kids, which was wonderful. But we attended a bereavement camp hosted by the local hospice, and it not only benefited them because children learn differently, they grieve differently than adults, but I was able to finally unbury those buried alive feelings and process that grief that just sat on the shelf waiting for me to acknowledge, to be able to express my feelings at the loss of my puppy and my best friend. So I began even a deeper journey to learn more. And in 2003, I was called into full-time ministry at a very growing church that I had been a member of. We had about 1,200 members at the time, and had no care ministries, no grief ministry. Yet a lot of people were experiencing death and dying, grief. With a congregation that large, you're going to have a lot of grief, and we just weren't addressing that. We live in a very death-denying culture, I've learned. In 2005, our senior pastor, his only child, young, beautiful woman, died in a single car accident. And again, faced with helping not only them navigate, but the entire congregation navigate death and dying, I enlisted the help of our local emergency chaplains and our local hospice chaplains, and again, taught me so much about death and dying and how to just come alongside that ministry of presence. But when I sat back and I thought about how I learn. Reading all these books, the wonderful book that the hospice volunteer in 1995 put in my hand called How People Die, that's been an invaluable resource. But for me, I really learn best when I come alongside the person, when I am eyebrow deep in their lives, when I am kind of on the job training. And I had a lot of opportunity to do that at the former church that I was on staff at, because we ended up having weekly people finding out that they had terminal illnesses or illnesses that they were battling, and to be able to give them some insight to the process of what they were going to likely go through, and just be there for when people ask questions. That's where children and adults are the same, because children will ask questions that they are ready to hear the answer to, and adults learn on an as need to know basis. And so coming alongside people is where I learn best. But now, while people grieve differently, there are some distinct commonalities. Uh, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she was able to articulate those probably the best in what she calls the 5 stages of grief. Now, these stages are not linear, but they're very common for people who are faced with their own death and are dealing with the death of someone close. First comes just complete denial. I can't believe that that person died, or I can't believe they just told me I had a brain tumor. I can't believe it. And then depending on the relationship with the person, or depending on your stage of life, depending on lots of different things, people can move into an anger, resentful. Some people really resent that all of a sudden as an adult they have a lot more responsibility that they didn't have before. That causes some angst or anger. And then there is just a complete, uh, you know, what if? What could a bargaining? What if I do this? Why can't they try something else? If I had just, if I had just talked to the doctor one more time. There's that bargaining. And then there's just this deep sadness. It's called the depression phase, but it is just a deep sadness where you're very aware of your loss. You're very aware that you need to that life has changed and will continue to change for you. These lead to, and one of the biggest goals that we have is to help lead people to acceptance. So these are, while grief is different and the way people grieve is different, the process of grieving is pretty much the same. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't be able to have a program like Grief Share if it was that individualized. So we do understand that grieving there's just some real concrete concepts that and stages that people go through. So applications to new situations. All of this learning, what has it led to? It has led to our church being one of the premier centers for grief, for grieving, not just grieving people, but to also train leaders from other churches. We're also called upon, we've been called upon by other churches and church groups when they are dealing with grief, profound grief, like in the loss of a child in their congregation. We've been called to bring our grief leaders to meet with people, to sit with people, to help them begin processing, just to talk it out. And then we're able to point them to our grief group. We've been able to develop a program and take it into other churches called Recovering from Losses in Life, because there are losses that bring grief: the loss of health, the loss of jobs, the loss of pets, the loss of dreams. And again, we live in a death-denying culture, so those are really not acknowledged. but we have an outlet. We have a place where we can just sit and we say, we understand that those losses affect you. And so we've been able to develop that. So what do I do right now? I spend my time with my volunteers, training, multiplying, trying to create a large army of people that can really help people on this grief journey. So I want to leave you with a quote from someone who has had a profound effect on my ministry and the way that I approach death and dying and grief ministry, and that's Henry Nouwen. And he has this wonderful quote from one of his books, and it says, "A compassion asks us to go where it hurts, to enter into the place of pain, to share in brokenness, fear, confusion, and anguish. Compassion challenges us to cry with those in misery, to mourn with those who are lonely, to weep with those in tears. Compassion requires us to be weak with the weak, vulnerable with the vulnerable, and powerless with the powerless. Compassion means full immersion in the condition of being human." So that has been a little bit about my journey, my learning journey with death and dying. Thank you for letting me share.